Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Lit Lotus podcast. I'm Melinda Van Kirk, your host, and this podcast is for empaths, yogis, and spiritual beings who are seeking holistic health alternatives for mind, body, and spiritual well-being. This is a community where we love, we inspire, and we thrive together. We are lit. If you'd like to know a little bit more about me, please head on over to my website, litlotus.me or melindavankirk.com, and you can learn about all the offerings I have, including my lifestyle and health coaching and the year-long program I lead called the Living Inspiration Tribe. This is a collective of women who have committed to improving their mind-body health in a holistic way. The women in my group experience better sleep, improved energy, healthier weight, reduced stress, and really begin to feel reconnected to their bodies. And together we do love, inspire, and thrive. It is truly a magical experience with the group that I lead. All right, so today's podcast, we are talking about forgiveness and how forgiveness can help us move into our next version of ourselves, our next best version of ourselves. And if you haven't listened to my podcast on identity evolution, I invite you to go back and take a listen to that, because we delve into a little bit of meditation around envisioning this next version of you. And I know it's a wonderful practice to envision it and to help release some of the old stuff. But I've found lately in my own life that there's a layer that's been missing. And so recently I've been inviting in not just gratitude, which is so important to be grateful, but also bringing in this idea of forgiveness of others and of myself. So today we're going to talk just a little bit about what that means for you. Often we think by just saying you forgive somebody that it's true. And what we realize as time goes on is it's often not true. We all have baggage from our childhood, right? So if you think back to maybe something that happened to you when you're a child from another kid, from a parent, a sibling, and you think you've forgiven that person because it was just kid stuff, but you realize you're really still holding on to those feelings in your body. And you're still harboring maybe some feelings for the other person because of something that happened. Let me give you a little example with my parents. We were all raised different ways and had different beliefs about money and things. And it was really interesting because even just today, which is what inspired this podcast, is I was thinking about how I was raised with money and always feeling like I grew up in lack. And my mom used to give me an allowance and I had to be responsible for that money. And I had to do my chores to earn my allowance. So, when I was 7, that was making my bed on Saturday morning and picking up my toys, and I would get a quarter. Now, this is back in the early 80s, but it's still, a quarter didn't buy you a whole lot. In fact, that was probably a gumball, or maybe it was 10 cents for a gumball, but it wasn't a whole lot, right? And then gradually that increased over time. And my allowance became something that I received, but it also became something I had to be responsible for if I wanted to, let's say, buy school lunches. So when I got to middle school, I had a choice to either pack my lunch or spend my allowance on school lunch. And I didn't like that. My friends got money for their lunches, and I didn't like that I had to be responsible. And so I always felt like I was in lack because the $5 a week I got in middle school didn't cover my school lunches every day. And so I had to make this choice, and I started borrowing money from my friend who she'd get like $20 a week for lunch. And I think lunch was $1.25 or something like that, $1.50 back then. And so I would borrow money from her, and then I would pay it off in one big lump sum. But I really resented my mom for not paying for my lunch. Or she gave me a budget for clothes, let's say. So in 9th grade, I had, let's say $50 for the month to go buy clothes for that month. And it wasn't that I minded being responsible for the money, but I hated feeling like there was always a lack. There was never enough to get the things I wanted. There wasn't enough to buy my lunch. This is at an age where you're really too early to do more than a few chores around the house. I would mow the lawn or clean and things like that to make money. But you totally relied on your parents for your needs being met. And of course, if they weren't going to pay for lunch, I had to make it myself, or I had to go without, or I had to borrow money from somebody else. And so I grew up in this mentality of just total lack, and something I've been struggling with my whole adult life. So even in moments of my life where I've had an abundance of money, it seems like the lack always comes up. There's never enough. There's never enough. No matter what I was making, whether I was making $100 a day or several $100s a day or, less, it didn't really matter. I've always had this sort of lack mentality, like there's never been enough money. And, I might save in periods and then I go through these periods of spending. And so this is something I've struggled with my whole life. And I can look back to my childhood and say, wow, this has a lot to do with how I was raised. And today I was just realizing, like, all this lack that I'm holding on to, one, this is cultivating an environment of lack for myself. So when I'm not seeing money come in, it's because I'm still feeling like I'm in this lack mentality, and I'm feeling, I don't have enough money. I can't spend money on anything for myself. I can only spend money on bills, and I have to be very careful and this and that. And I'm not saying to be irresponsible with money, but to just recognize, like, when I'm coming from this mental space of lack, I am inviting that lack back into my life. So no wonder I've had these periods of abundance and then I end up in lack. And I'm not saying I'm being wasteful. I'm trying to be a good steward of money, but there's definitely been points in my life I thought, why did I buy that? Or, how could I be so irresponsible, etc. And what I'm recognizing is by holding on to these feelings of resentment about how my mother and father chose to teach me about money, whether I agree with it or not, is kind of irrelevant, because it was well intended. It was intended that I would be responsible and learn about money and also be resourceful and how to make money. But coming from this space, I felt like very very contracted, and so I've been holding on to those feelings of just being contracted and not being open to receive. And so today I just went through this little practice of forgiving my parents and my mother for choosing to teach me about money this way, because they were doing the best they could and they probably still stand by it. There's a lot of different perspectives on this. But by allowing myself to forgive them, I am freeing up space in my own life to receive. And this was just sort of an aha moment today. I was listening to a Louise Hay, it was like a recorded talk she had done back from probably the 80s. It looked very 80s. And she said something along the lines of, like, have you forgiven your parents or whoever it was for this to an audience member? And I started to cry, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've never really forgiven my parents for this. No wonder I'm coming from a space of lack. And I need to remember to look at the shadows, the things I don't necessarily always shed the light on, that are still hiding there, hiding in the psyche, in the conscious, in the body, and just allowing myself the space to receive. So whenever you can find forgiveness, this is really for you. And this is something I've probably never realized. And I think a lot of people that come from the space of forgiveness and have gone through this process understand it. But when you're forgiving somebody else, you're really doing this for you. You're doing it to clear up your baggage. You're doing it to help you let go of what you don't want in your life anymore. And you're doing it to help you evolve into this next amazing human being, this next version of your human being. So we're making room to receive by letting go of the old, just like cleaning out your closet, right? When you get rid of the old clothes and you see what's there, you're much more likely to wear the things that are in it. And you're also making room for some new fun things to add to it. And you're giving yourself some joy in this process. You're cleaning out the clutter. So forgiveness is a step in cleaning out the clutter. And you can't just say you forgive somebody. You have to have those moments of, like, oh yeah, I really do mean this. And it doesn't mean that you're excusing poor behaviors. So if you come from an abusive relationship and somewhere in your life, you can still find forgiveness without excusing the behaviors. You're not saying it was okay that I was abused. It's not okay that you were manipulated. It's not okay that you were physically hurt by somebody. But if you can find forgiveness in your heart, and you find that bit of empathy and understanding for where that person might be coming from, you might be able to release and let go of some of that. And it's such an important part of this healing journey. It can help you reduce things like anxiety when you feel safe all of a sudden. Think how the stress levels go down. Let me give you one other quick story about forgiveness. When I was out visiting my family a few weeks ago in California, there were some conversations about what I do, about Ayurveda, about how I eat, about how I believe to take in only organic foods in my body, how I try not to take medicine. And it was met with a lot of criticism. And without outing anybody specifically, one family member comes in very hot, like sort of critical and judgmental, like, this doesn't make sense. This isn't true. That's ridiculous. That kind of attitude. And first of all, that's really hard to take when you're trying to explain to someone in a calm, kind manner why you believe something. And then another family member's chiming in, well, you have to listen to science, don't you? Don't you have to come with the latest research and believe that? And, I was starting to meet it with a little bit of hostility. Like I was coming back, well, no, that's ridiculous. And I'm listening to my body. And I came in sort of in this, not my best light. It was saying my truth, but not in a way that was going to make people receptive to it, right? So, and it's hard when somebody starts a conversation and they're coming in hot. That's usually how the conversation goes, right? There's research on that. My therapist said to me once, how a conversation starts is usually how it ends. So if you come in with anger or hostility, that's usually how it's going to end, in anger and hostility, right? You're not going to get the results you want. And this being one of those examples, and I was so frustrated at this point because it had been multiple things and I was just sick of it. And I was like, I was tired of being questioned. I wasn't questioning their beliefs and I wasn't telling them what to do. And I can understand people don't like that, right? They don't like to be told what to do. But I wasn't saying that you need to do it my way. I was just asking to buy organic food when we were at the grocery store together. I wasn't telling them they had to believe what I believed, but I was super on edge then. And I was on my way to this shamanic yoga class, and I want to give a shout out to this person. It was in Palm Desert. It's called Heart and Soul Yoga, SOL, Soul. And it's Liz Cortez. And she does this shamanic yoga flow. And she does it, I think she said once every third Saturday or something along those lines. And it was so cleansing. It was exactly what I needed because I showed up to yoga feeling really agitated at that point. And I was not wanting to be around my family at that point. So I was super happy to get out and show up to a space where I felt safe and with quote unquote my people, which, maybe is a little judgmental, but everyone was very opening and welcome. And it was a small class and I felt very at home there and I felt like I could be me there. And so that's what I mean when I say my people, a space where I felt safe because I wasn't feeling safe with my family at that point. And anyways, I go to this class and it's this beautiful, gentle flow, but we face all the directions and she kind of takes us through like east, south, west, north, and the animal totems with each direction. And it was just, there was tears by the end of the class and I felt such a release. And I felt this moment of forgiveness with my family where I was just like, they're just coming in because they don't because they don't understand what I'm doing. And it's not my job to take offense. And so I forgive you for coming in with this sort of hostility and judgment because I don't think they meant it. They might feel that way in the moment, but I think what they were trying to do was just understand. Now, they weren't maybe being the most open and receptive, and it's not really the way I would suggest anyone to have a conversation, but just being able to say, okay, I forgive you for how that was. I forgive myself for how I reacted to the situation, because that's the one thing I can always control is my reaction and my feelings. And I could have let it go in the moment, or I could have not spoken about it. And I did want to stand up for myself, so I'm glad I did. But I didn't like that I came in hot. And I think when I was feeling so agitated, that I responded in that argumentative way. But when I was feeling so agitated, it's because I was responding to the situation exactly as it was coming to me. And so I was kind of a mirror for what I was experiencing, if that makes sense. And And so if I want to bring in calm and peace into my heart and into my life, and I want people to understand me, I have to let that go. And I have to bring to other people what I want to receive back, because we're all a mirror of whatever it is that we're receiving, and what we put out there is what we get back. That's really what I'm trying to say. So oftentimes when we get agitated by coworkers or other people around us, it's usually because there's something inside of us that we're not happy with, right? So it's not necessarily the coworker or the person that you're having a relationship with, friendship, partner, whatever. It's your reaction is very dependent on probably some baggage you're holding on to, and some things you need to forgive in that other person, and something you need to forgive in yourself. And so how I found forgiveness in that moment is the Ho'oponopono prayer. And if you don't know what that is, that's a Hawaiian prayer where you kind of go through this forgiving process. It means to make it right. The word pono means balance. And so what we do with this prayer is we just sort of envision maybe the situation or what it is that you're forgiving. And then you're saying these simple words: I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And so initially when I did this prayer, I was like, well, how come only I am asking for forgiveness? Right? I'm not saying I forgive you. Sometimes I do in the prayer, but a lot of times I'm like, wow, what am I apologizing for? I'm mad at this other person. What I'm apologizing for is the feeling that's inside me, the feeling I want to let go. And so if I can have that different perspective and put myself in somebody else's shoes and understand where they're coming from, or maybe why they're doing something that they're doing. And it's not doing it to me, and I always have to remember that, right? Because life is not happening to us, it's happening for us. I'm sure you've heard that. I think I said that in the last podcast, but when things are happening in your life and you feel like they're happening to you, that's when you got to take a step back and be like, no, I need to forgive this situation. I need to forgive this moment. I need to forgive this person, or I need to forgive myself. And so I invite you now, let's do a little brief meditation together. Think about something that you want to let go of. If you're having money blocks, where does that come from? If you're having relationship blocks, where does that come from? And often it traces back to our childhood. It could be an incident. It could be a relationship with an adult in your life. And I just want you to think about what that is, just the first thing that comes to mind. And then take a deep breath in and let it go out the mouth. And maybe you close the eyes down. Maybe you place a hand over your heart. And I want you to recognize what it is that you're experiencing. Notice if the emotions have shifted. You might feel tears. You might feel your heart beating a little bit stronger. You might feel a lump in your throat, or a little bit of twang in your gut, I should say. And just notice how you're experiencing it in the body. And then I want you to say these words: I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And sit with that for a moment, maybe repeating it a couple more times to yourself. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And as you repeat that, notice what you're experiencing in your heart center right now. Are you beginning to feel a little bit lighter? Are you beginning to feel some release? I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And then let's take a nice deep breath in together. And exhale, let it go out the mouth. the eyes are closed, you can let them flutter open. Of course, if you're driving, hopefully you're in a safe space. Eyes are open already. And then notice how you feel. And this is a practice you can do with every part of your life. This is a decluttering practice. You're letting go of emotional baggage. And if you're not feeling a release, that's okay. You can come back to this. Or maybe you're not ready for this. Maybe this is something you're still working through. And you can do this as a great journaling exercise. So making a list of maybe some things you've been holding on to. Where are you lacking prosperity in your life? Is it something like money? Is it something like love for yourself? Perhaps it's in your relationships, your friendships, your health, even your weight. And it's usually something that you're holding on to is fear-based. It's lack-based, it's fear-based. I'm worried I don't have enough. I'm worried I'm going to lose what I have. There's some level of anxiety and fear to this. And so this process of forgiveness is also a process of releasing the fear and releasing the anxiety. Another little tip after this forgiveness process is to write down a daily affirmation to help you work through it. I deserve all the money that is in the world. Or I deserve everything that's coming to me, right? I am abundant. I deserve health and happiness, or it is safe to be healthy. It is safe to let go of fear. There's so many Louise Hay affirmations out there. I'm sorry, I don't have them straight in front of me, but there's so many things that you can find where you're just saying, I am open, I'm ready to listen, I'm ready to receive. You can attribute it to angels or universal energy, but just find that affirmation that speaks to you in this moment to help you work through this process. And do it every day. Look in the mirror every morning. So when you get up, whatever your first step is when you look in the mirror, maybe you're brushing your teeth, maybe you're splashing some cool water on your eyes or washing your face. Look in the mirror and say your affirmations and repeat them to yourself several times. And just pick one to work through, and then that can change as you go. But just pick one to start. I want to do or just to give you a little quote from Louise Hay from You Can Heal Your Life. This is the only way to change others. Change ourselves first. Change your patterns and you will find that they, quote unquote, are different too. Blame is useless. Blaming only gives away our power. Keep your power. Without power, we cannot make changes. The helpless victim cannot see a way out. So think about how you can heal yourself, how you can change yourself. You can change your mindset. You can bring in forgiveness. And let me tell you a little conclusion to my story about this hostility I was feeling with my family. After I forgave them in that moment, and I went back to the place where we were all staying together. We're on vacation, so it's tight quarters, right? Around all your people. I noticed that the people that were coming in a little bit judgmental started to kind of quiet their judgments and ask me questions from the state of curiosity. And that state of curiosity is like saying, I'm open and willing to listen. And that's all you can ever ask for someone, right? They don't need to agree with you. They don't have to understand. But saying I'm open and I'm curious and I'm asking questions and I'm willing to listen is absolutely amazing. And by the end of the day, I was doing a chakra reading for this family member that was a little bit hostile in the morning. And she was amazed. And she's like, I don't understand how the pendulum moves. I'm like, it's reading your energy. And it was like eye-opening, like, okay, maybe there is something to some of this. Even if I don't quite understand it, I'm actually seeing the pendulum move right now. I'm seeing the energy and how my energy is moving. And there was some sort of little light bulb that went off. And it was like, yeah, okay, maybe being a little more curious is what I need. And maybe trying to understand my family member instead of coming in with judgment is what I need. And I truly believe that I only received those emotions from this person because I had moved on and I had forgiven the situation. I had apologized for my part in it, even if it wasn't directly to the person, right? It was all internal. But I asked for forgiveness with that prayer, and what I received back was pretty magical. And this is true about so many things in our life. So you can change your life in so many ways. Like Louise Hay said, right? Her book, You Can Heal Your Life, through the power of affirmation, the power of forgiveness. And there's more to that, right? There's layers to this. And we've talked about a lot of these layers. But just inviting in your own power, standing in your own power, and that's forgiveness, standing in your own power. It's truly, truly amazing. So we're not victims in the situation, right? When I became hostile, I was making myself a victim to the situation. And I was getting angry and getting resentful and realized that's not going to help the situation. What's going to help it is finding forgiveness, making space, and then look what happens, right? I invited the new. And I'll let you know how my prosperity journey goes, right? But as I forgive my parents for some of this money issues I have, and I think it's generational. It's not from my grandfather, my mother's side, but I truly believe it goes back generations. And a lot of us that have parents or grandparents that are from the Depression era, there's this mindset of lack around food, around money, around resources. And so finding forgiveness for maybe the way you were raised is really just going to help you clean your slate, clear out that fear, that anxiety, that negativity in your mind, and be open to receive. And that's really what we're looking for here. So you can receive better health the exact same way. You can be prosperous in any area of your life, because prosperity is so much more than money, right? Money is just an energetic thing. Money is an object, right? It's a way that we exchange energy. It's a way that we trade services, or we trade goods and services. So it's really not about the money. It's about finding prosperity in your life in all ways. Okay. Thank you all so much for listening today. I hope this podcast helped you find a little forgiveness in your heart and find how this forgiveness can help you expand a little bit more. And so to close our podcast, I invite you to just spread your arms out to the side. Give yourself some wings. Straight out to the side and open through your heart. Become very expansive here. Breathe in through your nose, opening the chest. Stretch your arms wide. Sigh out the mouth, keeping the arms expanded. And just say, I am open and receptive to all that is good. And feel the expansiveness in your heart. Let go of that contracted state. Arms crossed, scowl on your face. Let go of that. Give yourself a smile. I am open and receptive to all good and all that is in my highest good. I like that even better. I am open and receptive to all that is in my highest good. Breathe in and exhale out. And then let the arms lower down. And just relax. And I hope this podcast helps you today. Feel free to reach out with comments, questions. I always love to hear how this resonates for you. And again, you can find out more about me going to my website, litlotus.me or melindavankirk.com, and see how I help others through coaching. And it's all along this line. So everything I bring to you in this podcast is very much what I bring into my coaching. Because better health is so much more than what we eat. It's even more than the habits that we have. It's mindset, and it's being receptive, and it's bringing in healing from all angles, all aspects of life. All right, thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day. Namaste.